Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, look, I get it. You probably hate studying biology. The big words, the memorizing, it kind of sucks, right? You definitely don't want to overthink this stuff. And honestly, you don't have to. Today, we're not treating the human brain like some boring textbook diagram. We're going to treat it like a locked computer. And we are going to learn exactly how it gets hacked, corrupted, and reprogrammed. Let's get right into it. So think about your phone for a second. When you want to send a text, you hit send, it travels through the air, and the other person gets it in their inbox. Well, your brain does the exact same thing. It uses chemical messages to tell your body to feel pleasure, to move, or to feel pain. But what happens when your brain's messaging app gets hacked? Like, what actually happens when someone else gets your password and starts sending messages for you? Section 1. When the brain glitches. Before we talk about intentional hacks, let's look at what happens when the system just breaks down on its own. Sometimes the hardware just crashes. Take Parkinson's disease, for example. The brain basically deletes the specific files, the neurons that produce dopamine. Without dopamine, your movement files are completely corrupted, which leads to physical tremors. The fix? We literally try to upload more dopamine into the brain. Alzheimer's, on the other hand, wipes a totally different drive. It destroys the neurons, making a chemical called acetylcholine. Yeah, I know, big, ugly biology word. Just think of it as your memory drive. When it corrupts, memory files get deleted. And sadly, we don't actually have a fix for that system crash yet. Section 2. The addiction track. Okay, so that's natural hardware failure. But what happens when the user, that's you, starts intentionally downloading malware just for a quick thrill? Textbooks use super boring definitions for addiction, like a state of physical or psychic dependence. Let's skip the jargon. In plain English, your brain downloads a program that feels so unbelievably good it flat out refuses to run without it. You get locked out of your own system, and you get this crazy, irresistible desire to find that drug no matter the cost. The way that Traps snaps shut is basically a 4-step process. Step 1. Psychic dependency. That just means your mind goes, whoa, that was awesome, let's do it again. Step 2 is tolerance. Think of this like building up a resistance in a video game. Your body gets used to it, so you need a bigger and bigger dose just to get the exact same effect. Step 3 is physical dependency, which crashes you right into Step 4, withdrawal. This is where the system fully blue screens without the cheat code. The drug levels drop, and you experience literal physical pain. Game over. You're hacked. Section 3. Copycats and blockers. So how do these drugs actually hack your inbox? Scientists use scary words for this, but here is the ultimate cheat code to understand it. Endo just means inside. Endogenous means your original factory settings. Hormones, natural chemicals, stuff your body just makes on its own. Exo means outside. Exogenous is third-party software. Drugs, medicines, the artificial stuff you put in from the outside. When those outside drugs get in, they pull one of two hacks. They can be agonistic, we'll just call them the copycat. It's a master key that sneaks in and perfectly copies your natural chemicals. Or they can be antagonistic, which is the blocker. These do the exact opposite. They jam themselves into the lock and just break off, ruining it entirely so your natural chemicals can't get in at all. So you've got master keys and you've got jammed locks. Section 4. Hacking the pleasure center. Let's look at some specific malware that targets the pleasure center, starting with amphetamine. This is an outside copycat. And what does it do? It forces a massive release of dopamine. Biology teachers call this exocytosis, but honestly, just imagine grabbing your phone and spam clicking the send button on a happy text message 1,000,000 times a second. That's exactly what it is. Normally, you get a little stimulus, a normal amount of dopamine drops, and you feel pleasure for a short bit. Normal factory settings, right? But with amphetamine, because of that spam clicking we just talked about, your brain's inbox is completely flooded. You get an artificially huge high that lasts way, way longer than it ever should. Now, let's look at totally different malware that targets the exact same dopamine system, cocaine. Cocaine is also an outside copycat that boosts dopamine, but it doesn't spam the send button like amphetamine does. Instead, it blocks the recapture of dopamine. Think of your brain's pleasure system like a sink. Normally, the water, the pleasure, turns on for a second and then immediately drains away. That draining process is called recapture. It's how your brain cleans out the inbox so you don't overload. Well, cocaine basically comes in and shoves a massive rubber plug right into the drain. The water runs normally, but because it can't drain, the pleasure just completely floods the sink. So normally, dopamine drops, then quickly goes right down the drain.
Super clean, super efficient. But cocaine completely blocks that drain. The dopamine just sits there, trapped in the inbox, making that pleasure feeling last forever. Same result as amphetamine, but a completely different hack. Section 5. Hijacking the pain circuit.
Now, we don't just hack for pleasure, right? Sometimes people run a cheat code to kill pain. Morphine is an outside painkiller, but your body actually has a built-in factory-setting painkiller already. It's called enkephalin. When you get hurt, your brain sends a chemical called P substance. Literally just think of it as pain substance. Morphine is a copycat master key that perfectly mimics your natural painkillers to block that pain signal.
Normally, your built-in painkiller binds to receptors and turns down the pain message for a minute. But it doesn't last because your body's cleanup crew, the enzymes, digest it super fast. Morphine swoops in and totally blocks the release of the pain message. And here is the crazy part. Your body's cleanup crew literally doesn't know how to digest morphine. It can't clean it up. So the pain blockage lasts for a super long time. But what about movement? Let's talk about Curare. This is our classic blocker, and it targets your muscles. Normally, your brain uses a chemical password, acetylcholine, to tell your muscles to contract. Curare mimics the exact shape of that password. Normally, the real password goes in and you move. Easy. But Curare gets there first and jams the lock. It doesn't send a message at all, it just blocks the real password from getting in. The result? You are completely paralyzed. All because a chemical shoved a broken key into your muscle's lock.
Section 6. How drugs amplify signals.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground, showing how shockingly easy it is to bypass the brain's security systems. Basically, science gives us 6 main cheat codes to hack the system. 1. Plug the drain, like cocaine. 2. Spam the send button, like meth or amphetamine. 3. Boost the factories making the chemicals. 4. Fire the cleanup crews so the chemicals stick around longer. 5. Fake the password entirely, like alcohol. Or 6. Just make the password connection last way longer. 6 biological cheat codes that completely alter human behavior.
Which brings us to the end of our explainer today, and leaves us with a pretty massive question. We've seen how easily a tiny bit of powder, or a pill, or a plant can completely hijack your pleasure, delete your pain, or literally paralyze your muscles, just by mimicking shapes and plugging biological drains. So, I gotta ask, if your entire reality, your joy, your pain, your choices, is really just based on tiny chemicals locking into tiny receptors, who is really in control? The user or the software? Thanks for hanging out for this explainer. Keep questioning everything, and I'll catch you next time.